super cool astrology video. I want to talk about composite moon and Saturn conjunct. What happens when we see this very interesting combination. So moon Saturn aspects are not the most romantic. When you hear descriptions of them, they sound very dry and like something that you would not find in a romantic relationship. It's actually not the case. We see moon Saturn aspects, even hard aspects, pretty commonly in the charts of married couples or long-term couples. And the reason for that is that they establish a certain amount, it's like a safety net. Moon Saturn is a lot of the reasons why traditional marriage exists, because it provides this way to kind of pool your resources and provide yourself personally with more safety, structure, and a sense of permanence. And so when we have Moon and Saturn conjunct in a composite chart, it's showing that you blend in such a way that it is a safe relationship. That is the basis of why it exists. It is not exciting. It can be kind of boring and predictable because we are about building something together. We're about building a safe structure. The goals of the relationship are about security. It's an insular relationship when it comes to how we blend in the way of how our characters meld, our emotional natures meld in such a way that our emotional needs, our security needs, are very much on the same page when it comes to how are we going to use the relationship to fulfill those. So I'm trying to say that their personal security needs are blending in such a way where they're using the relationship as a vehicle more than other marriages do to fulfill this. So what you see is a very classic role play in the marriage. Even if it's a same-sex marriage, they fall into these roles of classic provider, classic nurturer. So you get kind of an Ozzie and Harriet type of deal here with this one. Saturn doesn't show up in composite charts until we get down to the business of relationship building. We generally do not feel Saturn contacts when we are still in the infatuation stage of things. We're still looking our best. We're only showing our best characteristics. We're not always telling the truth. We're being selective about what we see and say. Saturn kicks in when we start to get down to business and the business of building the relationship, when we have the opportunity for true love to come in after or out of that crazy making biology hoodwinking infatuation stage. This is when we have the opportunity to decide, okay, is this a failure because it has my heart doesn't skip a beat every time I see this person anymore, or is this going to be a success because I'm going to invest myself in this and create something beautiful and lasting. So Saturn, Moon, more so than any other Saturn aspects, show up when we start to evaluate the usefulness of the relationship when it comes to achieving our individual security goals. So the conjunction is showing that we blend in a very, very harmonious way when it comes to that. There is a tough time of evolving individually when we have this one. This is not like Moon Jupiter, Sun Jupiter, where we encourage each other to grow and change and evolve and learn. And we are not taking any risks or really going out of our boundaries when we have a Moon-Saturn conjunction going on. And so we can find frequently that one person can outgrow the other, and that there can be a sense of stagnation that can cause the people to need to go their separate ways after a certain amount of time. This is one where it shows up in those cases where we've been together for a long time, and after we feel like we've done our duty, we move on and find something that fits who we are now. Because the relationship doesn't grow with the individuals. It doesn't keep pace with how the two evolve. And so it can be something that is restrictive, that starts out, really offering a safe place to land, a safe place from which to build from, but that can be limiting. Sorry, I have a Pomeranian outside who's making some demands there, and I'm not going to fulfill them this one time. So there's a lot of duty that comes in when we have a Moon-Saturn conjunction, and we fulfill our duties well. There's not a lot of conflict when it comes to that because we blend in such a way that that's really compatible. What we see is dutiful. How we take care of the kids, how we pool our money, how we build our resources. That's all going to be easy between the two of us. It is not a romantic combination, though. It doesn't lend towards emotional understanding. It lends to emotional safety because we know that we can rely on each other to be there. We know that we can rely on each other to do what they said they were going to do and to act out the role that we've assigned to each other. What there is not is is an abundance of emotional understanding. Because this conjunction makes it impossible to naturally feel and interpret each other's intuitive communications, each other's intuitive signals. And so, usually in most relationships, in almost all relationships, 90% of it is actually nonverbal. It's implied, it's assumed, it's garnered, it's not spelled out. We just know. And so this is a conjunction where we don't just know. We have to spell it out. We have to tell each other what we are feeling. We have to tell each other what it is that in the vast majority of other relationships, we just know. We know what the other person means. We know what they're getting at, right? We don't know what each other's getting at with Saturn. We're a little slow when it comes to interpreting any nonverbal signals. And so there can be a sense of emotional alienation or emotional distance between two people with this one because it is not natural for us to just know what the other person emotionally is up to. And so we have to get really good at communicating that. And that is often something that, most of us don't grow up having an idea that we're going to have to carefully spell out and communicate what it is we need, what it is we're feeling, what it is that's missing. Most of us in our minds have that built in as a part of what we would naturally like to find in an ideal relationship. So this one doesn't really match what most people identify as an ideal component of a relationship. Now, if you're filled with Saturn and stuff and extra boring yourself, you're probably going to love this. But most people, not so much. They're looking for their emotional needs to be naturally met by the other person. So this has a business-like quality to it, where it's almost like we have to sit down and have a meeting and say, okay, how are you doing? How am I doing? What is it that you need? What is it that I can give you? And we need to take notes, and because it's not natural, it's businesslike, the emotional communication between two people. And it's a merger that can make all kinds of money and bring us all kinds of concrete things and build our resources, but it doesn't do a lot for us in the realm of feeling understood, feeling like we're with somebody who really gets us at that deeper emotional level. So it works very well in some ways, and it works for certain personalities better than others. If you have a lot of Neptune in you or a lot of Venus, this is one that or Jupiter, you could find yourself outgrowing this kind of relationship. If you're highly Saturnian and very resistant to change yourself, this might be one that is good for you for the long term. So a good look at the natal charts is a good way to determine what the longer term potentials of this conjunction in a composite chart are likely to be. Because if we have somebody that's very much into change or growth and learning and expanding, this is something that they could end up outgrowing. So I hope this was helpful and answered some of your questions. And if you liked it, please like the video. And you can find me on the internet at truthandaspectastrology.com. Facebook and Instagram, other social media at Truth and Aspect Astrology. Yes, I do private consultation, and I will be back super soon with more super cool videos. Bye-bye.